Hello everyone. So the next topic which I will be discussing here is about the disorders of the muscles. So muscle disorders, they are diseases and disorders that affect the human muscle system, and their main uh, manifestation is skeletal muscle weakness. So there is a term which is known as the muscular dystrophy or neuromuscular condition and neuromuscular disorder. So they fall under the umbrella which is known as the muscle disorders. So these disorders, they are the large group of conditions which affect either the muscle, such as those in the arms and legs, or heart and lungs, or the nerves which control the muscles. So disorders of muscle may cause weakness or paralysis in the intact of the nervous system. So the next I will be discussing is the classification of the muscle disorder. Now, the muscle disorder has been classified into three parts. What are the three parts? Primary or secondary, genetic or acquired, or neuromuscular. So, if I talk about the primary or secondary, then these are the diseases and disorders that are a result of direct abnormalities of the muscles that are considered as the primary muscle diseases. Example of this includes the polymyositis, and diseases that are secondary to another condition may have caused muscle damage. So the example of that disease is the diseases due to the endocrine tissues. Next is genetic and acquired, and there are neuromuscular disorders as well. So if I talk about neuromuscular disorder, it is a journal term that encompasses a large number of diseases with different presentations. So this is what is the neuromuscular disorder. The next is about the causes of the muscle disorder. So there are a number of causes of the muscle disorder. So first is the age and hereditary. Injury or overuse, such as the sprains and strains, cramps. So these are the overuse. There can be genetic disorders, such as muscular dystrophy is a genetic disorder. Some cancer can be the cause of muscle disorder as well. Inflammation. So inflammation such as myositis. And diseases of the nerve that affect the muscle. There are few infectious diseases also that can lead to the cause of the muscle disorder. Then there can be some metabolic causes and endocrine causes as well. So there can be metabolic and endocrine causes as well. There can be autoimmune disorders, and sometimes the cause is not known. In few cases, sometimes the cause of the muscle disorder is not known. Now, there are few symptoms, but symptoms they can vary with different type of muscle disorder. So now, what are the symptoms that can lead to the muscle disorder? Muscle weakness that slowly gets worse. There is a breathing issue, especially dyspnea, which means there is a shortness of breath. Dizziness, fatigue, muscle wasting or loss of the strength. There can be high fever, a stiff neck, numbness, tingling, or the painful sensation in the muscles or the bones. Then double vision, droppy eyelids, problems with swelling, difficulty using one or more muscle groups such as muscle weakness, and problems walking, balance, and frequent falls. So these can be the symptoms of the muscle disorders. Now, the next is the type of muscle disorder. So the muscle disorder can vary from can be of many types. So first is the myopathies, and the examples are being given here. Then the cramps, fibrosis, fibrosis, rhabdomyolysis, cardiac myopathy, lateral sclerosis, and Sarcopenia. So these are some of the muscle disorders. Now we will be discussing each of these muscle disorders in detail. So first I will talk about is the myopathies, which is a disease of skeletal muscle and that are not caused by the nerve disorders. These diseases cause the skeletal or the voluntary muscles to become weak or wasted. Now there are different kinds of myopathies which commonly include, first of all, there is a genetic myopathy, then inflammatory myopathy, and there is a endocrine myopathy as well. So these are the three different types of myopathies. So the cause of the myopathies, they are usually degenerative, but they are sometimes caused by drug side effect, chemical poisoning, or a chronic disorder of the immune system. So these are some of the causes of the myopathies. Next is about the cramp. So cramps, they are the prolonged, painful, involuntary contraction of the skeletal muscle. So there is a contraction of the skeletal muscle which causes a lot of pain in an individual. So that are known as the cramps. Fibrositis, it is an inflammation of fibrous connective tissues in muscles, and it also affects the muscles of trunk and the back. So this is the condition, this is the disorder of the muscle. Rhabdomyolysis, so what is it? It is a condition or a chemical and biochemical syndrome which results from the skeletal muscle injury and that alters the integrity of the muscle cell membrane sufficiently to allow the release of the muscle cell content into the plasma. So when there is a quick breakdown of skeletal muscle, there can be an accumulation of the breakdown products which cause the renal failure. So that will cause the renal failure. And this type of disorder came came about during the World War II, especially during the bombing that occurred in London, where crushed victims developed the acute renal failure. So this was the disease at that time which was being identified. Now comes the cardiac myopathy. So cardiac myopathy, which is also called as the coronary heart disease or coronary artery disease. So it is the most common form of the heart disease. So some of the symptoms are being depicted here. There can be a chest pain, there can be a shortness of breath. So this is a diagram of heart which is showing the arteries, which is being showing that there is a buildup of plaque in the coronary arteries of the heart. So that may lead to the coronary artery disease. It is the most common heart disease, and it is a result of arthromatous changes in the vessels which is supplying the heart. So CAD or CAT, it is used to describe a range of clinical disorders from asymptomatic arthroschlerosis and a stable angina to acute coronary syndrome. It is asymptomatic in most of the population. So when severe enough, it can cause angina or acute coronary syndrome, which is including myocardial infarction. That is also present with the heart failure or sudden cardiac death. So this was about the cardiac myopathy. Next comes the lateral sclerosis. So what is this term or what is this disorder? This disorder is a fatal neurological disorder with an adult onset around 54 to 67 years of age and belongs to a group or condition which is known as the motor neuron diseases. This disorder. It is the hallmark, and it's the degeneration of both the upper and the lower motor neurons, which is leading to progressive muscle atrophy and weakness, and ultimately to the paralysis. So this is about the lateral sclerosis. Next is about the Sercopania, which is a muscle disease that can be of two types, that is, it can be of primary, it can be of secondary. It causes muscle mass loss and muscle strength loss. So the age-related loss of muscle function is known as the Sercopania. It occurs with increasing age, and it is the major component of the The loss of muscle mass during the aging process is important clinically, as it reduces the strength and exercise capacity, both which are needed to perform the activities of the daily living. So this is about the disorder. So this was all about the disorders of the muscles. These are some of the references.